We are back now at 8:09 with new details in the bullying suicide case of Phoebe Prince. She's the 15-year-old who took her own life back in January, allegedly after being tormented by a group of classmates. Today, national correspondent Amy Robach is in South Hadley, Massachusetts with the latest. Amy, good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Meredith. Phoebe Prince moved here to South Hadley from her quaint Irish village last fall to get a fresh new start. But newly obtained court documents show that Phoebe Prince was deeply troubled before she ever set foot in South Hadley High School.
It was a story that made headlines around the country, a warning about cruelty and the dangers of bullying. Phoebe Prince, 15 years old, beautiful and smart, committed suicide after months of relentless torment by her high school classmates.
A car with a couple of kids in it chucks a drink out the window, calls her an Irish slut, an Irish whore. Why don't you go kill yourself? And she did.
At fault, allegedly, the so-called mean girls. 4 girls who reportedly saw Phoebe as a romantic rival, along with 2 popular boys she dated. In the days leading up to Phoebe's death, prosecutors say the mean girls bullied her so often, Phoebe hanged herself at home to escape the torture.
From information known to investigators thus far, it appears that Phoebe's death on January 14th followed a torturous day for her, in which she was subjected to verbal harassment and threatened physical abuse.
All 6 accused bullies have been criminally charged with felonies and could face years in prison. But court documents recently obtained by Emily Bazelton of the online magazine Slate contain police interviews with Phoebe's mother, classmates, teachers, and administrators that tell a different story, one that suggests the teen's troubles extended beyond the halls of South Hadley High.
For me, the most surprising thing involved her mental health history, because that really hadn't been disclosed.
The documents reveal that in November of last year, Phoebe attempted suicide, swallowing an entire bottle of the antipsychotic drug Seroquel and going into organ failure. Also detailed in the documents, the fact that Phoebe had taken Prozac and had a history of cutting herself. An interview with a classmate shows the extent of Phoebe's self-mutilation, describing how she, quote, lifted up her hoodie and showed cuts on her chest above her bra and all the way down to her hips.
It changes how we might think about what happened to her in South Hadley as a result of the bullying, and how much the kids who bullied her can really be held responsible for her suicide.
But there's no question that in her final hours, the bullying was taking its toll on Phoebe. A text message sent on the day of her death threatening suicide, quote, I can't do it anymore. I'm literally home crying. What more do they want from me? Do I have to expletive OD? Also left behind a note asking for forgiveness.
The 6 teenagers who have been indicted in this case are facing charges ranging from civil rights violations to statutory rape. The pretrial hearings are set to get underway in this case this September. Meredith?
All right, Amy Robach, thank you very much. Emily Bazelon, who you just saw in that piece, is with us exclusively. Again, she is the senior editor for the online magazine Slate. Emily, good morning to you.
Good morning.
You know, in the media, the cause of Phoebe's suicide has been linked basically to a pack of jealous, predatory kids who acted en masse because Phoebe was new to the school and very popular with boys. The DA described it as a nearly 3-month campaign of relentless and torturous bullying. But after reviewing the grand jury report, you found something quite different, didn't you?
Right. I was looking at police interviews, and I've also done a lot of interviews with students. And, you know, there were a couple of conflicts that Phoebe had with different kids. She got involved with a boy named Sean, and that made his girlfriend upset. And then she got involved with another boy named Austin, and that made his girlfriend upset. From the point of view of the kids in the school, this was sort of normal girl drama until really right before she died, the last day of her death, when the bullying really became serious.
So none of the kids that you talked to or school administrators felt that she was unfairly targeted by kids? They felt there was a reason for it? Or?
Well, that she was involved in these conflicts, that it's more complicated than the idea of a predatory pack of kids descending on her, and that there are different levels of culpability of the kids. There were really only 3 kids involved in bullying her on the day that she died. The other 3 kids, no one says, were anywhere near her the week before her death.
And yet they all have been charged.
And yet they've all been charged, and they're facing serious felony charges that threaten them with prison.
So are you saying essentially that that from your research, you do not believe the facts justify that kind of criminal retribution?
It's really hard for me to see how that's the right solution in this case, which isn't to say that terrible bullying didn't happen here or that this death isn't tragic. Just the notion of criminally charging 6 teenagers in a way that blames them for the death of a girl who had this much more complicated history, that seems really questionable to me.
I think the DA's office in pushing for those charges said one of the reasons it did so is because the school had dropped the ball in terms of dealing with bullying. Did the school do enough? I mean, they knew that Phoebe had a past history of some serious problems. Her mom alerted the school to that. They knew that she had tried to commit suicide right after Thanksgiving.
Right. So there was a counselor and a nurse who were regularly in contact with Phoebe and her mother between her suicide attempt in November and her death. And the question is whether the school should have been doing more than that, whether there should have been a broader effort. And I don't feel like I know the answer to that. It's a really hard question. Certainly, I think that after Phoebe's death, the school bungled the public relations aspect of this case. They were bound by confidentiality laws not to say what discipline they were imposing, but they didn't do a very good job of making that message come across clearly, and the community really, parts of it, lost confidence in them.
Do you think part of this was just an impulse on the part of a lot of people to just place the blame somewhere?
Yes, I think this is a really sad, awful thing, and I think we do have this strong impulse to want to point fingers and have a clear explanation, a very clear black and white narrative for what happened in this case, and it's just more complicated than that.
And right now, they're heading into pretrial situation in the fall. Are people in town, I'm just curious about the mood of the town, is it more about Phoebe or is it about these kids and maybe some injustice?
I think it's more about Phoebe, and one reason for that is that when you have criminal charges in a case like this, you really shut down honest conversation. Lawyers get involved, it becomes very difficult to apologize, hard for people to take any responsibility, and so the town, I think, really has not had an honest conversation about these charges, you know, what these particular kids did versus some sort of broader failure of the adults in the community, or maybe, you know, a broader problem we have with bullying nationally.
Well, maybe they will take the time to address that. Emily Bazelon, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.